Hello everyone, it's Richard Lewis here again with another video, and I haven't made one of these for a while. I know I've been incredibly busy and not really had the time, and I know a lot of you guys have been wanting to see more content in the YouTube channel. I apologize about that, but today I'm taking some time out from my day to make a quick reaction video to something that's happening right now, something that's being discussed right now in the esports space, and it's the matter of Twitch emotes. And I'm sure if you watch my channel, you know about Twitch, but just in case you're stumbling across this for whatever reason, Twitch is obviously a streaming service, a streaming platform, the industry leader. It's owned by Amazon, and you can use these things called emotes, where it's basically a shorthand, little emoji type thing that you can put in the chat, and these have various different types of people, different types of, like image, different types of words. And it's a very popular thing on the platform that people like to use to interact and express themselves on that platform. Now, this issue is being discussed in relation to a clip from the Overwatch League. And the hot button topic right now is, can emotes be racist? Now, I know a lot of you guys are going to be going, oh, well, Richard hates the SJ dubs, right? So he's going to come and rip them a new asshole. It's not that kind of video. That's not my stance on this. So you're going to be incredibly disappointed if that's what you've come here for. Because actually, I can see why there might be some issues with this topic, and hopefully I'm going to outline why. And if you're on the fence, maybe you'll see my viewpoint. I'm not saying the viewpoint is wrong. I'll tell you, there are some people who are trying to get into esports and only have bad intentions and are I've been the victim of a hit piece myself for my transgressions and past poor judgment, which I've paid for, right? But this isn't one of those times. This is something that's been bubbling up under the surface of Twitch culture for a long time, hasn't been addressed. A classic Twitch move where they put their head in the sand and hope it's going to go away, and Twitch is too big for that. It's not going to go away. So let's take a look at why we're having this discussion today. Malik Forte, who's been working on the Overwatch League, said this.
Like the one we saw just now at Nepal. Would you consider that a good strat or disrespect? You guys let me know in the chat when you're done with all those try-hard emotes. And in the meantime, we'll go ahead and send it over to our casters, Uber and Mr. X.
Well, I don't know about you guys.
Right, okay, so when you're done with all those try-hard emotes, for those of you who don't know, the try-hard emote comes from Trihex, a black personality. It is an image of a black person, and what you see increasingly on streams is that whenever a black person appears on stream, people spam the emote in the chat. Now, I put a tweet out after this was being discussed, and I'm sure some people in my audience will not appreciate the sentiment of it, but I'm trying to hopefully I can expand upon it and make people understand why this is my viewpoint. Here it is. Hang on, just quickly bring that up for you. So this is what I said. I was going to bring this up. This is in relation to an article PC Gamer ran, which we'll talk about in just a second. I was going to bring this up, so thanks for doing so. There was some actually disgusting things said in that chat, which pertains to a DreamHack Hearthstone competition and a player called Terrence M. I can't imagine how Terrence must have felt seeing all that shit after what was a great tournament run for him. If you look at the things said there, it isn't about the emote spam, which honestly is fucking childish and tedious, and I'm glad my friend Malik addressed it on broadcast. That is just out and out racist shit, and I hope action was taken against every account guilty of it. The issue of Twitch emotes is potentially derogatory has been bubbling up under the surface for a while and has never been addressed. I don't think the use of an emote can be inherently racist. I do think some people have used them with racist intent. How do you separate? I can personally say I wince whenever I see tryhard spammed because one of my black colleagues is on screen. I don't care for when high-level streamers use the names of emotes as code for racial groups either, which happens more often than you'd think. Equally, I don't think that you can label anyone using the emote, even within this context, as racist, as that is a profound leap that professes to know someone's mindset, which is nonsensical. Is there a solution that satisfies everyone? Probably not. If you ban the emotes, you are literally erasing black people, Asian people, Arabic people, etc. from the Twitch lexicon. I think that's a blow for diversity, honestly. And if you leave them as is, then they can be hijacked by people who are pieces of shit using them with bad intent. It's impossible to contextualize every piece of Twitch chat, especially on huge broadcasts. Maybe the middle ground is to let companies Twitch partners with choose to ban certain global emotes if they feel it's necessary to protect their staff. Either way, it's a broad issue for me, and it is a broad issue, guys. I'm going to tell you a little bit as to why. So let's start by talking about the Terrence M issue. You're going to see a lot of people bring this up. You really are. And perhaps they shouldn't, because I don't think this is the same thing. I'm gonna tell you that when this happened in 2016, I was absolutely appalled. I mean, appalled. The things that were said about a competitive Hearthstone player who is black in this chat was just unacceptable, and DreamHack completely dropped the ball. My understanding was Blizzard were incredibly angry, as they have every right to be, with the lack of moderation. Clearly, there weren't even word filters in place, certainly not very expansive ones if there were, and you're going to see what I mean. These examples are awful. This isn't, though, the issue, and you'll see why. So here is the PC Gamer article as is, and we'll just skip the sort of context and the history of it all and just show you. You can see here, I don't want to read any of this stuff, but you can see the N-word being used, people implying that he is a thief because of the color of his skin, and people liberally peppering the racism with the try-hard emote. It's completely unacceptable. As I said in my original tweets, I hope every account that did this was banned. I hope Twitch went into the back end, got IP. These people have no place in being on the Twitch platform. Again, sorry if you want to come at me with your freedom of speech or whatever the fuck. I think everybody knows that I support freedom of expression and freedom of speech. This is just not fucking right in any, by any stretch. I don't care what argument you want to make. I do not want to see professional athletes, professional esports athletes, racially denigrated on the leading platform. End of fucking discussion on that one. But as I said, this isn't the issue, because those were just racial abuse that was being allowed. It wasn't just the tryhard emote that was being spammed. Now, I know Malik. I've had the pleasure of working with him on E-League. I consider him a friend. I will tell you, Malik is not thin-skinned. This isn't somebody who's being overly sensitive about something that, they're blowing it out of proportion. I want you to think about this. I want you to think about what is being said when a black person comes onto screen and they're broadcast talent, or they're a competitor, and people immediately start spamming the tryhard. Now, there's some innocent interpretations, which I still think are pathetic and childish. But the innocent interpretation is, oh, look, a black person. Let's show that we recognize that this is a black person by putting one of the emotes that is a black person into the chat. Well, again, I think that's incredibly childish. I don't think you would do that in public. Every time you see a black person, you don't go, oh, look, a black person. So I do not consider it to be something that I'm comfortable with. As I said, I wince every time because I know it's coming. And I work with a lot of, black talent in the space. And I just can't imagine what that's like to sort of have Twitch chat spammed with that every time you're trying to do your job. I can't imagine it. I think it's incredibly reductive. And what else does it say? Like, why is it happening to black people? Is it because, oh, look, there's a black person, they're a novelty? Well, that's not acceptable either, is it? That's not a pleasant thing to say. So it is reductive. Now, I'm not saying everybody that uses tryhard is a racist. Obviously, that's a ridiculous assertion. You cannot make that assertion. I think at best you could say they're childish. It's a bit silly. Maybe they're not aware of the impact it could have on an individual. But it certainly seems to me to be something that has been going on way too long, and we've never had a sensible conversation about it. Now, what you've got to think about here is, where do these emotes come from? Why did Twitch even have these emotes? Well, there's two things that are going on. First is that they immortalize somebody, an individual who has made an outstanding contribution to Twitch or gaming history, or esports. You know, Scoots, who I'm sure a lot of people know, he's got one. You know, Gutex, Mr. PogChamp, Poggers, the legend himself, right? It's a particular individual who has made an outstanding contribution or had a memorable moment, and they have given their consent for their image rights to be used by Twitch globally to basically express that type of emotion if you're a viewer. That's what it's there for. But also, there is a history there that perhaps not, some people aren't really aware of. And that is that back when Twitch was a small company, there was a little bit of edginess and in-jokes and banter to how they carried themselves. For example, I know Ming Lee, the emote Ming Lee, which is spammed every time an Asian competitor or Asian commentator or Asian analyst or Asian interviewer or Asian host is on the channel, much like Tryhard. I know him. He's a guy called Chris Mead. Used to be an incredible Call of Duty player called Enrio. He's an amazing guy. Again, somebody I consider a friend. And he had a wicked sense of humor in the most literal sense. You know, people would banter with him, and when he was put into the context of becoming Ming Lee in this global emote, I'm sure he didn't even anticipate how it could be used. The question now becomes, as Twitch has grown as a platform, you know, do we want these global emotes being spammed in a derogatory fashion? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Maybe it's not entirely derogatory. Maybe there's an element to it I'm missing. I understand fun. I understand humor, as does Mr. Mead himself. But it's not fun for everybody. So where do we draw that line? This is always the fundamental question. Now, certainly, I think one of the reasons why Twitch hasn't wanted to address the emote issue is because they are changing identity now. They're going from being a small company which was founded by esports and gaming people, grassroots, super passionate, a real team effort, tech deficit, to being owned by one of the biggest corporations in the world. I'm sure people don't want to talk about the elephant in the room, that yes, you're probably going to have to leave some of that childish stuff behind. You're probably going to have to leave some of that, edginess behind as you become a bigger company. I totally understand why you might want to defer having that conversation, but it is time now, I think. And if I'm being completely honest about it, I do look at some of the names of the emotes, and look, I'm not overly sensitive myself. You couldn't apply the SJW label to me, but I think they're a little bit racially charged. Sorry, I said it. Come on, bruh. I'm sorry. I'm saying it, right? I think there is an element to it that sort of addresses race in a way that perhaps isn't going to be fun for everybody. So, what's happened now, and with Malik addressing the issue the way he did, obviously it blew up. A lot of eyes on the Overwatch League at the moment, and somebody noticed that a professional player called XQC actually was in the chat at the time using the tryhard emote and has now been subsequently punished. There's a wave of punishments coming into the Overwatch League at the moment. Oh, hang on. This doesn't look very good. All right, well, I'm not going to edit that out. I guess that's a transparency issue. So we'll do the Kotaku, the compete coverage. And basically, you can see here it says that XQC, had posted in the chat the Tryhard 7, which is saluting try hard, the emote, and as a result has received a $4,000 fine and a 4-match suspension for that, among some other things where he called a commentator cancer. Now, honestly, my gut feeling is, as you'll see when I expand more upon my points, is that I think he's been caught in the crossfire. I really do. I think because of his checkered past and his previous controversies, I think Blizzard have really laid down the law on him here, because there is no way you can say, as they did in their statement, which I can read for you here, is that they say... XQC has repeatedly used an emote in a racially disparaging manner on the league stream. And I don't think you can say that honestly with 100% certainty. And I think 100% certainty is usually the way you want to go on such strong, punitive measures. I think you're making a lot of assumptions there. I think a small fine, a slap on the wrist, a conversation about how as a player that you lose a certain ability to be just a regular member of Twitch chat, right? I think that would have been more appropriate, but I think because that this issue is going to blow up, they've absolutely railroaded XQC, factoring in some of his previous transgressions. And just as an aside, I'll say this: XQC doesn't strike me as an awful human being. I don't know why somebody from his organization, somebody like an agent or a manager, somebody in his life just hasn't put an arm around him and said, listen, these petty, silly things that you keep getting embroiled in, this is esports. People are never going to forget, and this will have a future impact on what could be an amazing, bright career. And I'm not just talking about as an Overwatch pro. I'm talking as a streamer. He's a big personality. He's got a lot of fans. He will always have opportunities in this space, provided he can stop, hamstringing himself and self-sabotaging this way. Somebody has really got to explain this to him, and take it from me, if he watches this for whatever reason, I'm a guy who constantly pays on a daily basis for my poor judgment in the past. It doesn't go away, and eventually all of these second chances and good faith, it all dries up. And you can only go out and do the work, but you will always be answering for things that you did. And I certainly don't believe he's a racist. I don't think he wants a reputation as one. So that's something he might want to think about. Now, let's talk about what can be done. We're presenting problems. Nobody has any solutions. I don't know if I do have a solution, but let's just talk about what people are suggesting. So first, we've got to recognize Twitch as a platform has been hugely successful because of its interactivity. Whatever industry people, including myself, want to say about Twitch chat, and I'm very often derogatory about Twitch chat. I personally, I wouldn't say I was a fan of it. Whatever. It's a huge part of Twitch's success, and it needs to be acknowledged as such. And anything that prevents the audience from expressing themselves in a way they like, in a way they enjoy, is potentially a bad business decision for Twitch. Equally, a lot of people are talking about banning these emotes. This is nonsense. What do we actually do if we ban emotes that celebrate black people in the space, Arabic people in the space, Asian people in the space? That's a huge blow for diversity. We are literally removing those people from the Twitch lexicon and Twitch shorthand and making it this homogenous, dare I say, white-only zone. That is not the answer. That is not the solution. But Twitch will have a huge, impossible, Herculean labor on its hands to contextualize every piece of Twitch chat, to go through and look at every timestamp of the try hard emote. And did they mean that the person was trying hard, or were they saying it while there was a black person on screen? It's a fool's errand, because you're not even going to achieve anything long term in doing this. It will be a lot of energy expended for virtually no beneficial results. I think what you need to do is you need to acknowledge that, unfortunately, these these emotes can be hijacked by people with bad intentions. Not everybody that uses tryhard or other emotes is a racist, obviously. And I wouldn't want to assume the worst about anybody or label anybody in that fashion because they used an emote that they're free to use on the Twitch platform. What I will say, though, is that perhaps when you partner with somebody like the Overwatch League, much in the same way, they can ban things they don't want in their chat. They don't like Pepe. I think that's a banned phrase. I know Harambe is a banned phrase because they consider that a racially divisive meme. I think that's stupid, frankly. But what I will say is, if you want to give Blizzard the option to disable certain global Twitch emotes, if they feel it's necessary, then where is the harm in that? Where is the harm? I think we need to acknowledge that there are some aspects to this that perhaps not everyone is cognizant of. It's not as easy as just saying you're overly offended, you're overly sensitive if this bothers you. As I said, I've worked with Malik. He is an incredibly talented individual. He's somebody I respect. He's somebody I like. And I don't want him to feel out of place in this industry. I don't want him to feel uncomfortable while he's doing his work. And I don't want him to be reduced to one little fucking picture on Twitch. I want people to recognize him for his contribution. And unfortunately, I think perhaps people aren't aware that you could be viewed as being somebody who is reducing that person down to just the color of their skin when you spam these emotes. I think Twitch needs to have a long look at what they do moving forward. I don't think this is a cut and dry issue by any stripe, and I hope some voices with some bigger, broader wisdom than me on the topic weigh in, and we get to a place where everybody can feel satisfied. I don't know if there is a resolution that achieves it, but it's definitely time to take a look and think about it. So anyway, I want to thank you all for taking the time to watch this video. I hope that expands on my points. All take care of yourselves, and I will see you next time.